Welcome to part 2 of our two-part guide to the new fabric analyzer by Browseware, known as FAB 2.0. In part 1, we provided an overview of the FAB's parts, accessories, and their functions, as well as the basics of installing the dbadmin software and setting up the equipment. Do check out that video first to get a complete overview of FAB 2.0. In this video, we'll walk you through the steps to test your own fabric and add it to the database. Before starting, do remember that you must have a valid license dongle with the same database ID as the database you want to edit. Cloud licensing does not currently support dbadmin. Ahead of fabric testing, let's first familiarize you with the dbadmin user interface. The left side displays all of the fabrics. The top right drop-down menu shows which database you're working in. In the center, the testing interface will appear with all the input fields needed for fabric testing. First, in the top right drop-down menu, choose the correct company database for the fabric you want to test. Then, on the left, click the plus sign to add a new fabric. You need to fill in the required fields in the General Information section. Name and category are mandatory, but manufacturer and description are optional. For this example, we'll choose weaves as the category. Note, if the category you want isn't there, simply click on the edit icon, click Create New, and type in the name of the category. Next, we go to the composition section to add details of the fibers. In this case, we have two types of fiber, so we click Add Fiber to get a second input field. Now we choose the fiber from the drop-down list and fill in the percentage. Remember, the total percentage should add up to 100%. Once the general information and composition sections are completed, you can begin FAB calibration. Click the Use FAB button and a page displays to guide you through the steps to complete the tests. Each time a test phase is successfully completed, the next test in the sequence is highlighted. There are two types of calibration: weight calibration and zero-point calibration. Weight calibration should be done every month approximately. Zero-point calibration is done before testing every sample. Remove any sample from the machine and close the clamps. Then click Start. Stand the machine on its short side with the fixed clamp nearest the ground. Then click Next. Put the 100-gram weight on the fixed clamp. Then click Start. Remove the weight from the clamp and put the machine back to its original position. Then press Next. Note, weight calibration is disabled if weight calibration has been completed on the machine within the previous month. Before you click Start for the zero-point calibration, ensure that the fixed or stationary clamp is closed and the movable clamp is open. Click Start for the zero-point calibration. The zero-point calibration process completes and you are prompted to continue. Now you fill in the average weight you calculated previously and the width and length of the sample fabric strips. Click the first Calculate button to get the net area. Click the second Calculate button to get your final mass reading. Note, you can instead enter the fabric mass without using the calculator if you have the figures from a vendor. Click Next to start the first test, the thickness test. Before clicking Start, ensure the movable clamp is open and the fixed clamp is closed. The FAB runs zero-point calibration before each test. Click Start to get the movable clamp in the correct position for testing. Open the clamp. Take the supplied thickness extension and attach it to the movable clamp. The extension is fixed by a magnet. The longer side of the thickness extension should be closer to the non-movable clamp. Open the clip on the thickness extension and insert the fabric sample so it drapes down the thickness extension to almost touch the base plate. Then close the clip on the thickness extension. Drape the extra part of the fabric sample behind and on the thickness extension so that it does not touch the base plate. When ready, click Start. You'll know the process has complete when the next button appears on your screen. Remove the sample fabric, then remove the thickness extension. Before clicking Start, ensure the movable clamp is open and the fixed clamp is closed. Click Start to begin the long segment test. Once the Start button turns blue, do the following. Ensure both clamps are open. Put the large spacer into place between the two clamps. Note the guidelines on both clamps and the spacer. To make sure the spacer is in the correct place, ensure the guidelines are matched up. Lay the fabric down with the left side of the sample aligned with the left side of the fixed clamp. Close both clamps, pulling each screw head up and tighten it. Roll up the excess fabric on the right so that it is stacked on the movable clamp and not touching the base plate. To ensure the correct amount of force is applied, check the force indicator range on your computer screen. If required, adjust the fabric so that the force indicator is in the center. Now remove the spacer and double-check that the force indicator is still in the center. Click Start to begin the test. The testing time varies depending on the stretchability of the sample fabric being tested. The Next button is highlighted once the test is complete. Click Next to proceed. Note that the test phase highlighted on the left has now moved to the short segment test. Unwind the screw heads, lift the clamps, and remove the sample fabric. Before clicking Start, ensure the movable clamp is open and the fixed clamp is closed. Then click Start to get the movable clamp into the correct position for the short segment test. Once the Start button turns blue, do the following. Ensure both clamps are open. Put the small spacer into place between the two clamps. Note the guidelines on both clamps and the spacer. To make sure the spacer is in the correct place, ensure the guidelines are matched up. Lay the fabric down with the short side of the sample aligned with the left side of the fixed clamp. Note, you want to use a different part of the fabric sample from the part that has already been tested. Close both clamps, pulling each screw head up and tightening it. Roll up the excess fabric on the right so that it is stacked on the movable clamp and not touching the base plate. When prompted by the on-screen instruction, slide a pencil or a pen under the sample to very lightly create an upward arch. Then click Start. When prompted by the on-screen instruction, slide a pencil or a pen above the sample to very lightly create a downward arch. Then click Start. Click Next to proceed to the next test, repeating the long segment and short segment tests for the width and the bias sample fabrics. When all tests have been completed, the check mark appears in all of the tests. Click Save. The FAB window closes and you return to dbadmin. All physical properties from the FAB testing are automatically synchronized with dbadmin. Click Save at the top. Finally, click OK on the dialog box. Now that you've completed a full fabric test, you can continue testing other fabrics or exit the dbadmin program. For additional working and safety tips for your FAB, check out support.browseware.com.